Hello everybody! Today it's time for the second starter of this generation. Going in Pokédex order, it's Torchic next and has to take on the whole game unevolved. This one might be rough, but let's hope for the best. Let me quickly go over the rules. I can only use the starter in combat. I can't use items in battle, I can't raise my evasion in any way, and I can't use cheats or glitches. It's generally quite hard to beat the whole game with the starter because you are supposed to evolve them, but it might be extra challenging for Torchic considering that there are more than a few water types throughout the game. Anyhow, after choosing the starter, I had to complete the first few levels, and those ones are generally not much of a problem. To this day, I am still unsure about the nature. I was not sure if 45 speed would have been enough, even at level 100, to outspeed some of the threats later in the game, so I increased it with the nature. I was a bit surprised to find that, unlike Trico, Torchic does not get a stab move at level 6 or 7. It's not super important, Scratch is enough to deal with the very early game, and I can always grind for a couple more levels. It just felt a bit weird. And now it's time for the first wall in our adventure. Unfortunately, the first gym fight is against Roxanne, who, as you all know, specializes in rock types. That's an awful type matchup for Torchic. Fire is weak to rock, both offensively and defensively, so I decided to do something different. I, as most Pokemon players, hate the move Sand Attack, and would you guess it, Torchic learns it early on, so it's time to make Roxanne feel our pain for once. Well, that was the plan, but Sand Attack, being the extremely unreliable move that it is, got me killed a bunch of times, until it finally caused them to miss enough for Torchic to singe her stones. A little bit of time after earning the first badge, I tried the optional May fight. She is a bit scary with a tanky Torkoal and a super effective Mudkip, but in the end all went well, mostly because her Pokémons decided to be very passive. I then had a bit of a crazy idea. Usually when I am not using an overpowered Pokémon, I skip Brawly, but for some reason today I was feeling confident in Torchic capabilities and took him on. Somehow this fight ended up being easier than I was expecting, in part thanks to the super effective Peck and the special Ember. Most of his Pokémons did not pose a problem. Makuhita beat me up a bit, but I survived the ordeal and earned the second badge. This had the extra benefit of earning me some more XP. It's not immediately useful since our next fight is against the two Team Aqua Grunts. Sure, they have two water types, but I know they don't have any water moves, so it's not like they can do much to me, and considering their poor defenses, both Carvanas went down very fast, being only able to inconvenience me with rough skin. Now, for the part that I was worried about. Before reaching the next gym, I had to deal with May again. Unfortunately, this time her starter evolved, so it's a lot stronger. She was able to defeat me a few times. Once again, I could have spent more time grinding levels, but Sand Attack was still in my moveset, so I used that move instead. Her first two Pokémons don't do much to me, but I always ended up losing to Marshtomp. This time it used Bide for no reason, so I was able to lower his accuracy by a lot. That's not a guaranteed win. I have been in this situation before and lost the fight. It was extremely close, with me coming out of it in the deep red. After dropping the ball a few times with May, I was tempted to buy Flamethrower from the casino, but ultimately decided against it since I will learn it anyway in a few levels. Watson was not too scary. Usually the main problem in this fight is Magneton, since it resists most of the types in the game, but today I have brought Fire, so it should not be too much of a problem. The rest of his team is neutral to it though, so I expect to take a few hits here and there. Ultimately this one was close too, but with little HP to spare, I earned the third badge of the region too. Next we have some exploration to do until we find the two teams in Meteorfall Caves, at which point we can backtrack a little bit until we find Archie. Here we have the first fight against him. Not going to lie, I kinda underestimated him. By this point, I had a Flamethrower, so I was feeling a bit cocky. The match starts very well for me, with his first Pokémon dropping immediately, but then Camerupt comes out, survives a hit, and retaliates with a massive Magnitude 9, almost one-shotting me. So yeah, that was not fun. The next step in our journey is the first gym, headed by Flannery. I'm sure you have all heard of the saying, fight fire with fire. That's not a great idea in Pokemon, since fire resists itself, but at some point that's what I had to do. I started with a crit sledge strategy, but since it was not having great results, I switched to Flamethrower, since one of her Pokémons very kindly set up the sun for me. I also had Dig, which is super effective, but kinda forgot about it. Not sure if I like doing two gyms back to back, but that's exactly what we have to do in the middle of Emerald, so our next stop is back at the normal gym, whose leader is our dad Norman. Fortunately, his Pokémons don't resist fire, so I can let my inner arsonist out and spam Flamethrower to my heart's content. I almost got punished for it, but Slacking got defeated before it could spank me. After this badge is in our pocket too, we are given and can use the Surf TM out of combat. This allowed me to face a lot of trainers, so I increased my level substantially. Sooner or later I reached the Weather Institute, where I had to take care of the Team Aqua admins. I breezed through them, and immediately after we have the next May fight. This is one of the few times where this specific fight against her it's not a joke. Her starter can still do some solid damage and the rain weakens my fire moves, giving her more opportunities to mess me up. Ultimately, that's not what happens, and I am mostly able to sweep through her team. In 4-3, I grabbed the hidden power TM, and after some Kecleon testing, I found out it's Ice type. That's pretty good. It can help with this gym, but it will play a key role in 10 minutes. Even without it, this gym should have been sort of easy. The only thing that worries me is the Altaria with Earthquake, but since it is 4 times weak, she gets obliterated. Once we have the flying badge, I went on top of the graveyard to get the magma emblem and infiltrated the volcano, where Maxi wakes up Groudon. Apparently I did not learn anything from my last encounter with him, and this time it did not end well for me. I lost to his Camerupt. Both Earthquake and Rock Slide hurt a lot. Thankfully the second time he was a lot more passive and I was able to defeat it. Crobat was a bit annoying with confusion, but nothing our chicken could not handle, so with that we are off to the next adventure, aka the last fight against May. This one is optional, but since I will need all the experience I can find, I am gladly going to sweep through her team here too. While I don't have the stats to one-shot her starter, it's a bit too late for it to matter. It is very underleveled and even Mudshot at this point barely tickles. Next we have to storm the Team Aqua base, but are again too late and can only find an admin waiting for us. As you might expect, his team gets burned to a crisp and we can move on to a long grind session that culminates in the Tate and Liza fight. This one had me a little worried. I am not exactly a tanky Pokemon and can't recover much in a 2v1. Worst of all, Claydol has Earthquake, so there goes half of my HP. For some reason they don't heal it, so I can defeat the doll, and from there I can make my way through the rest of their team. Lunatone misses a clutch hypnosis and Solrock sets up the sun. But that backfires on it, because with a boosted flamethrower he and his companions are much easier to defeat. Kinda close again, but with no resets I am happy with how that fight went. As usual, after getting the badge, we have to deal with the Team Magma situation. The double fight, it's not a big deal. Sure, there are 2 Camerupts with Rock Slide, but even assuming that they use it, the damage is split, and Steven might use Reflect to lower it even further. Instead, they still play passive, using a bunch of amnesias, so in a few more turns I can turn this into a 2v1. At this point, the fight is effectively over, as we can keep pounding the one Pokemon and defeating it before it can move and hit us back. Also, at this point, the emulator started crashing a lot, so there might be some inconsistencies between clips, since I had to redo most of the fights at least twice. I'll have to remember to use a different core for the next videos. Anyway, our next target is Archie, and for once we are not too late. He starts a fight with us and it goes quite well. His Pokémons get blasted away by Flamethrower. It could have been a problem if I hit myself a lot of times in confusion from Crobat since it is faster than me, but I can finish the fight in one piece. Here we have the usual end of the world scenario. I am sure you watched hundreds of times, so could you do me a solid and press the like, subscribe and bell buttons? Pretty please. Also, if I am not asking too much, leave a comment. I'll be sure to read and answer all of them. Juan was a bit of a problem and managed to defeat me multiple times, so I had to change my approach. I went back and picked up Sunny Day. It might seem counterintuitive, but Flamethrower in the sun deals a lot of damage, and even if it is resisted, might be my best option in many cases. I would have really liked Solar Beam to deal with these pesky fishes, but unfortunately I can't learn it. Another advantage of being in the sun is that the damage from water moves is halved, making them effectively neutral against a Torchic. The only Pokemon that really scared me was Kindra, since it has the capabilities to outlast, but a Slash Crit solved that problem for me. After earning all of the badges, we can finally enter the Victory Road. Here we meet Wally again, who I am sure had quite the adventure too, since it went from a single Ralts to a semi-respectable team of Pokémons. Unfortunately for him, Flamethrower destroys half of his team, and Altaria it's not a problem either, since I am still holding on to Ice Hidden Power. Gardevoir takes a few hits, but eventually falls too. With that, we can finally enter the league and start the last gauntlet. Since the champion is a water-type trainer, I decided to level up all the way to 100 from the start. It might have been more entertaining if I held on to the candies till the last minute, but what's done it done. Sidney is target practice for Flamethrower, since everything dies to a single hit, and we can soon move on to Pheobe. Here, the fact that her lead always protects on turn 1 allows me to use Sunny Day to boost my future Flamethrowers. Dusclops is a very tanky Pokemon, so I am not sure if it would have lived without the sun, and a course would have taken me out for sure, since I am not holding on to a Citrus Berry. The rest of her team gets easily swept with a Flamethrower, and for them it does not matter if the sun expires, so in no time we are done with the second Elite Four too. Next up is Glacia, and she might be a bit more problematic. Sure, her two Glalis are going to get melted by my fire move, but the rest of her team not so much. The Celios and Walrein are part water, so fire is only neutral on them, and they all have the thick fat ability, making it do even less damage. In the end, thanks to the sun, I am able to take them down in 2 hits each, and their water moves did not hurt too bad. Once the water mammals are out of the way, the fight is over, and we can start to get ready for Drake. Here is where the ice type hidden power is very important. I am sure that without it, Drake would have been a lot harder. Dragon resists fire, so I would not have been able to defeat them fast, and with 2 earthquakes, 1 rock slide, and Kingdra on his team, he would have been a very steep wall to climb. Instead, I only took a couple of losses against him, so I am now ready to face the last and probably hardest challenge of the run. I am not going to sugarcoat it. The match against Wallace was not a fight, but a slaughter against me. I lost a large number of times. I tried different strategies with different items and moves, but nothing seemed to work until I decided to quadruple down on fire. That might seem odd, but I noticed that without Citrus Berry, he could put me in Blaze range. Blaze is Torchic's ability, allowing him to do even more damage with fire moves if under 30% HP. Between that, Sun, and Stab, Flamethrower was putting out some absurd numbers. Thanks to some careful movements, aka try over and over until it happens, I was able to get to around 60 HP after an earthquake from a Wishcash. And with all of that set up, I one-shotted Gyarados, which was quite surprising to say the least. Milotic lived though, and I thought it was over, but instead I was the boy who lived on 9 HP and could finish off the ELD next turn. And so ends one of the hardest runs I did in a while. If you enjoyed the video, please take a moment to like, share, subscribe, ring the bell, and all of that stuff that every YouTuber asks for. Also, leave a comment if you have any run ideas or suggestions. I might do them in the future. See you next week. Bye!